Our guest on this segment is Cristi Goettel with AAA. Good to have you, child.
Well, thank you. So happy to be here.
And be with us. What do you do with AAA?
I work in corporate communications and in public outreach.
So they sent a pro.
I hope so.
Yeah, I suspect they did. Do we have a driving problem in Oklahoma?
You know, I would say we have a driving problem everywhere. We all think we're great drivers. We think we drive better than everyone else, yet we admit to risky driving behavior when we're surveyed. So I think we're all taking risks with everyone out on the road every day.
When I moved to Oklahoma, one of the things I decided not to do, because I moved here from Arkansas, and they've got the same situation, but I don't go anywhere on New Year's. I don't go anywhere Christmas Eve. I try to stay home because it seems like it's amateur night. And right after the Super Bowl, you know, alcohol or whatever they choose to abuse seems to take over the reins, and they all become bulletproof.
Well, you know, anytime there's cause to celebrate, people are going to be on the road, possibly driving under the influence. We
have some video that you supplied.
Okay.
We're going to take a look at it.
All right.
Are these some of the things that you should not do? Are we driving home the point?
I believe so.
All right, let's go ahead and roll that video if we could. Emmeline, take a look at some of the things folks do that they shouldn't behind the wheel. And you tell us why.
Well, I mean, these are distracted driving, you know, eating, shaving. You're paying more attention to your activity than to what's happening on the road around you. Obviously, the handheld devices, electronic devices have been a big issue.
This one throws me. I see this all the time. This is an illegal thing, isn't it? To have dogs with running around inside the vehicle?
You know, it's an unsafe activity, and it's certainly not good for the driver or for the pets. You know, the pets can be a big distraction to that driver, and they could get injured and cause injury to someone in the vehicle.
What's wrong with this?
Yeah, she's
one-handed driver. Okay, cut across traffic. Oh, I see these from time to time.
Yeah, losing stuff on the road and off the edge.
What's wrong with this picture?
Well, I don't think we have everyone in their own lane. You know, we had a big issue with road debris. It causes a lot of accidents, and that's something that's been kind of top of mind lately.
There's another one with unsafe transportation.
So,
passing on the double line. Gosh. And you wonder, these folks vote. You know, they vote. That's what makes it really scary. I don't know how you feel about it, but it seems like every day, either on the drive home or the drive to work or just the grocery store, I see things that just defy logic. And I
have to say it's a good thing that you see those, because a lot of people are oblivious. You know, if you're paying attention, you're driving defensively and you're doing the right thing, keeping yourself safe on that road.
That used to be the big deal. When back in the day, when I was just a puppy, they used to say, when you grow up and you start driving, you've got to learn to drive defensively.
You know, and we still talk some about driving defensively, but part of the problem that we have is we're finding by studies that teen drivers are learning to drive and they're seeing what their parents are doing. We have as much trouble with parents texting and driving, using the cell phones,
really?
Admitting to speeding, running red lights. I think I mentioned that we had a study from the AAA Traffic Safety Foundation that showed that 87% of Americans admitted to risky behavior while driving in the past month.
There is talk they're going to try to make talking on a cell phone while you're driving illegal. You think it'll pass?
You know, I think eventually you'll see that. You see it in a lot of different areas. You know, we finally passed the handheld texting and, you know, emailing just a couple of years ago.
Oh, duh.
You would think duh, but there's still places out there where it's not illegal. There are places right now where the cell phone usage is illegal. So I think eventually you'll see that, and more of a move towards more people using the not using the handheld.
Is there any hope for us? Is there any indication based on statistical analysis that folks are starting to pay more attention? Or are they swerving off to more devices? Do they consider themselves experts at multitasking?
You know, I think you just hit the nail on the head right there. You know, people, you ask them and they'll tell you texting and driving, email and driving, talking on that cell phone, it's dangerous. But you know what? I'm okay at it. I do a good job. I can multitask. It's okay. I can read and drive. I can type and drive. So it's kind of a mentality that, you know what, no one else can do it, but I'm okay. See, I stayed in the lines.
There was an article in Tulsa World, interview with a state trooper recently, and in it, he talks about, he came up beside a guy who was reading and driving on the interstate. And he said he drove along next to him for a while, and the guy finally noticed him, and he just kind of pulled the book down, you know, and had that sheepish look to him. And when he finally pulled him over and said, "Why in the world did you do that?" He said, "Well, the highways out here are so boring." And I'm thinking, you're looking at 2,500 pounds of plastic and steel and aluminum, and you're going down the road at 65, 75 miles an hour, and you're reading a book?
It's unbelievable. I just think that we have this mentality as drivers that it's not going to happen to us.
And it does.
It does every day. 72,000 crashes in Oklahoma last year, I believe.
Are the younger drivers paying better attention than the older drivers?
I think that they're paying better attention maybe than they have traditionally. I think we've had some help with the graduated driver's license. You know, so our drivers don't get out with that license at 16 and have free reign. They have some rules. You know, we minimize the other teens in the car with them. So they have 6 months of not having that extra distraction. There's a much bigger stigma, I believe, with the texting with teens. You know, we're really kind of watching them because there's this expectation that they're doing something wrong. You know, and what we're seeing though is that once they get beyond that, they might get a little more lax with their rules. And so I think it's a good idea. You know, we've got to have parents on board. They need to be setting boundaries and talking to their teens about safe driving habits. And they need to be showing them safe
You're
driving
way
habits.
too young to remember this, but I remember it very distinctly. When I was back in the day, about the time they discovered fire, and folks at home were going to text and email and call the stations, you know, get him off. But they used to have a big assembly at schools, my school, for example, and they'd run films made up of nothing but one car wreck after another before people were taken out of them. And they were graphic, and you could hear the people yelling and screaming and crying and whatnot. And I'm telling you something, the seniors in that high school slowed down considerably after they saw it. Now, we don't see those anymore. You know, we get rules, and I'm sure it's, you know, there's a reason that they don't show it. But it seems to me like perhaps, you know, that sort of thing ought to be drilled into folks before they get a license. Let them really have the fear of God before they get behind the wheel.
It is. It's difficult to convince a teenager that something bad can happen to them. And so they have that idea that they're invincible.
What's AAA's take on driverless cars?
You know, driverless cars are going to be here eventually. I mean, we're seeing a lot of autonomous characteristics to cars already. And we really haven't taken a stand one way or another. We're watching and learning and really just paying attention. But I think some of the safety features that you see that are coming out of that work are interesting, and they might help keep people on the road longer.
I have to tell you up front, I'm a lousy passenger. You know, if there's not a grab bar or something I can grab onto when somebody else is driving, I'm terrible. People don't like me to ride with them because I'm that way. I'm just like a Fruit Loop. If you're driving and the speed limit's 35 and you're going 36, I'm Panic City. I'm all over the place. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm looking for a place to bail. Yeah, I got this belt on, but I want out. You know, if I'm not in control. Maybe that's it. I'm a control freak. Anyway, what's anything new coming from AAA? Any new figures or studies we need to know about? We got about 30 seconds.
You know, really just, you know, we're keeping an eye on the autonomous vehicles and looking at some of the new things that are coming out. Just keeping an eye on keeping our roadways safe as we move into the future.
And it's going to take all of us to pull it off.
All of us working together.
Cristi, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Perspectives. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.